in need of reconciliation and justice. Pakistan. Shehrbano Taseer, the governor of Pakistan's Punjab province, wanted changes to his country's blasphemy laws, which only protected Islam. It was a deeply controversial and dangerous wish, and in January he was murdered by one of his own bodyguards. His daughter, Shehrbano Taseer, has taken up the fight against extremism that cost her father his life. And she's with me now. Welcome, very, very good. Great to have you with us. I mean, was it really the standing up for a Christian woman accused of blasphemy that was the final sort of blow that brought about his death? The casus belli, as it were?
Well, it was, I mean, what prompted the man to do what he did was related to this whole issue of blasphemy. But, you know, the aftermath of my father's murder, it really, it brought a rather frightening reality home, which is that this man is not just a man or an organization, he's a mindset. And he's an environment, and this kind of mindset and environment is being created and allowed to flourish in Pakistan, where somebody who's so deluded in this warped piety can take the law into his own hands and kill somebody for it.
Mm. And in fact, what your father wanted to do was to change the law, yes?
Well, no, he spoke about the misuse of these blasphemy laws, which is a very valid point. These laws target the poor and the defenseless and the minorities in Pakistan, and they're most often used as an instrument of repression and terror. So, you know, so my father had said that they were vague and open-ended, and that they required an amendment to prevent this from happening. And, you know, these rabid clerics, they took to the streets and they twisted my father's views to suit their own incendiary narrative.
He wanted to change the law, but he wanted to get across a more forgiving attitude throughout Pakistan, didn't he? I mean,
right. My father's message was one of humanity. You know, there was a poor Christian illiterate woman who had been languishing in jail for over a year. And she wasn't the first. There have been almost 2,000 people that have been targeted by this law since its inception in 1986. And that was his point.
And I mean, when he came into court first time, the murderer, I mean, he was garlanded with flowers by lawyers, wasn't he?
Right.
That's what I read, anyway.
Yeah,
it seemed extraordinary.
By 200 lawyers, and these men don't realize that what this man did goes against their very profession. He took the law into his own hands and he killed somebody because he didn't agree with what they said. And it just shows you, I think, how far the tentacles of extremism have spread in Pakistan. That you know, and it makes me wonder just how independent our judiciary is.
How do you think extremism can be lessened in Pakistan? Can it be? How could it happen?
Well, that's a million-dollar question.
Yeah.
But you know, because it's a multifaceted problem.
Yeah.
It has to have a multi-pronged approach, I feel. And I mean, something that I feel very strongly about is this madrasa system in Pakistan.
Yes. Now that's for people not familiar with the word. Those are schools, religious schools. Yes?
Right. Yeah. And they're attached to a mosque, and the local cleric in there has all the power. He's allowed to preach whatever he wants, and you know, and he does. And what's happening is that these madrasas have become breeding grounds for Islamic radicalism and terrorism. So if you and you know, if you think of the future of your country, that is your next generation, right? That is the youth. And what these men are doing is that they're capitalizing on the youth of Pakistan, and they are raising an entire generation of children to believe that their only contribution to Islam and to the world is jihad, and to have this very narrow worldview. And you know, if you go into a madrasa, they're 8 or 9-year-olds who they don't know much about history or math or science or English, but they know how to fire a gun, and they know how to build a bomb, and they know how to blow themselves up. And so these clerics are teaching children not how to live, but how to die. And so it's really worrying, because it's a mindset that we're dealing with, and the state has completely abdicated its responsibilities in this regard, because they're allowing these hate mongers an open platform from which to operate, and there's no reform of the syllabus in these madrasas.
And given that, and given that teaching going on, presumably you have to be conscious of security as you go about now. I mean, you either to have protection or a bodyguard or something like that, you might offend the very same people who were offended by your father.
Yeah, and you know, as we've seen in Pakistan, if you believe in something, you're going to have to be willing to die for it. But I mean, I think they've got what they wanted. We've obviously, my family has taken security measures.
But they've got what they wanted. You mean the enemy has got what they wanted with the death of your father?
Yeah, or so they think. But they don't know that there's an entire Pakistan who mourned for my father and who mourned for what happened. And you know, we refuse to let these extremists win. We're a very resilient nation. We're very strong people. These people, they don't represent the average Pakistani. They're a small minority. They happen to be loud and well-armed and well-funded, but they're not the majority.
They're not the majority. They're very much a minority. Cause,
no,
they're
not
just looking
in
the papers, you know, it's so often the image, tragically, the image of Pakistan is of an event like this.
Well, and that really breaks my heart, because Pakistan has so much more to offer, and it's these bombs and killings that make it into the newspapers. But these terrorists, they lack legitimacy. These extremists, they lack legitimacy. They've never gotten more than 10% of the popular vote. It's always the secular and progressive parties that are voted into power. But what's frightening is that they have a disproportionate amount of street power, and I feel like it's only increasing. And I mean, I can't state that enough.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw in the case with your father, I mean, lawyers not willing to take part because they were frightened, really,
right,
instead of acting for the law and so on and so on.
Yeah, there's an atmosphere of fear in Pakistan. If they could get the governor of the largest, of the most populous province in Pakistan, then is anyone safe?
Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks.